This is my tech video project for week 4 in the multimedia workshop. So for this unit that is integrating different types of technology, here is the at a glance view of this unit. My target audience is my 6th grade sustainability class. This is an elective for 6th graders. It goes about 10 weeks in total, and the specific unit I'm focusing on for this project is our climate change and greenhouse gases unit. This unit usually takes between 2 to 3 weeks of time. The big ideas in this unit are all about how human activities are impacting and causing climate change. So I really want students to be able to understand that burning fossil fuels for energy releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which goes through the greenhouse gas effect and then comes back down to the earth as radiant heat, which thereby is leading to climate change in the form of increased global temperature and different weather pattern changes. Some of the essential questions for this unit are, how does human activity impact Earth? A very broad question that students should be able to answer in a multitude of ways by the end of the unit, as well as how do sustainable practices impact climate change? In addition, some of the student outcomes I'm looking for in this unit are for students to be able to determine how each person's and their own activities and actions influence economy, society, and environment. Those are our sustainability pillars, which goes back to a previous unit that we did at the beginning of this course. Also, I want to see that students are able to model the greenhouse gas effect and its connection to global climate change. Last but not least, I'd like to have students be able to explain with evidence how human activities drive those climate change events like global temperature increase and different extreme weather pattern changes. This is the unit overview. So in this unit, students are going to be exploring the impacts of human activities, specifically on the pillars of sustainability, society, environment, and economy. They'll be looking at the greenhouse gas effect and its connection to climate change. In this unit, they'll be presented with many different various activities and media, which really help them to see the topic from a 360 view and see it through both video and readings and simulations and gamification elements, so that all learning styles are kind of hit in this unit, and students are able to process the information and the content in a bunch of different ways. So students are going to investigate different facts and evidence that shows the connection between increased fossil fuel use and global temperature increase, as well as those occurrences of extreme weather phenomena. In this unit, they will also model the large-scale greenhouse effect that drives climate change using an online simulation. This allows them to travel through time and adjust different parameters to see the impacts of the greenhouse gas effect on Earth, which is a very hard thing to show in a lab. We can only talk about it and read about it. So it's nice that students will be using a simulation to be able to directly see how this is happening in our world. Students are also going to be reading informational text articles from different perspectives and watch videos from top experts in climate change to understand and process the content. They're also going to test their knowledge using gamification learning elements. And they'll finally be demonstrating their mastery of content through constructing explanations with evidence for the connection between the human actions and the things that we're seeing happen in climate change. They'll also be looking to propose possible solutions to reduce this impact, and that's kind of that full wraparound to not only look at the problem, but start to investigate and propose some solutions, which directly connects to the standards in the next generation science standards about this. It's all about creating these models, but then also proposing solutions that can help fix some of the problems that they're investigating. I will be looking for a multitude of ways to integrate technology into this unit, and specifically in this presentation, I'll be talking about 4 technologies that I will be using to help bring this content to life. We'll be looking at EdPuzzle, Newsela, Kahoot, and Phet Simulations. Overall, technology integration allows students to really grapple with the content on their own, as well as spur conversations and discussions with their peers and with their teacher. And it also allows them to see this content through many different lenses, both videos, reading, games, simulation, so that all students are able to access the content. And that's really the beauty of technology integration in any unit, but very specifically for science, it's great because students don't necessarily, especially in our climate right now with the pandemic, don't have to be looking to be sitting in a lab and conducting hands-on experiments. They can kind of get the content and also grapple and move that content around virtually. So the first technology I will be using in this unit is EdPuzzle. EdPuzzle is a great way to structure the activity of students watching video. And so you can integrate YouTube videos or even your own uploaded videos into this platform and customize it with different text or audio notations, as well as embed checks for understanding with multiple choice and open-ended questions. So the advantage to using EdPuzzle and the improvements in which it can bring to student outcomes is it allows students to engage with the video more actively. They're able to check their understanding as they move through. They're able to rewatch different parts of it, and that accountability piece for teachers, they can actually see the mastery of how students did with that content instead of relying on a discussion afterwards or a quiz that they take after finishing the video. EdPuzzle actually is able to monitor their use and watching of that video and their ability to answer questions throughout the video as it goes. And they're not able to continue on in the video until they answer the question that you can kind of see noted with the little gray dots in the picture on this slide here. Teachers are also able to see how long they watched the video, how many times they watched it, so they can see truly how well they engaged with it, give accuracy checks with those embedded questions, and also the ability to give feedback right here in EdPuzzle to students. If they were not accurate on the embedded questions, teachers can type some feedback directly to them. For my unit, I would be using this platform as an introduction to the content of climate change. And I'd be doing it in a flipped classroom approach where I would ask students to engage with the EdPuzzle video, which is the Bill Nye Climate Change 101 from National Geographic, a great YouTube video. They would be engaging with that content prior to class so that when we get to class, we're able to have a in-depth classroom discussion because students already have some sort of basis of the content. So this is a quick view of the EdPuzzle here. As you can see, these little gray dots here denote different times when an interactive element will happen. So students would start watching it when they got to this interactive element. After they had watched, they're going to see whatever that interactive element is. For example, this first one here is actually an audio note directly from me, their teacher, telling them the purpose behind the video assignment. And so you'll see here, as they watch the video, anytime that I've embedded a question, it will stop, ask them the question. They have to answer the question to be able to continue to watch the video. It will tell them immediately if they were correct or incorrect, and then they can continue watching. They're able to rewatch sections, but they are not able to fast forward. And also they can bring up closed captioning as well. Then this is the view of what it looks like on the teacher side when the students are completing their EdPuzzle. I'm able to see exactly how much of the video that student watched, what grade they had on all the multiple choice questions. If I was to give an open-ended question, I'd be able to go in and directly grade their open-ended. And I'd be able to see when they turned it in, and I can do some sorting and some different analysis here in order to help me know how to create our next lesson that dives deeper into this content together as a class. All right, so the next technology that I will be integrating into this climate change unit is Phet Simulations, which are online simulations developed by the University of Colorado that allows students to engage and explore with some large-scale phenomena that's really hard to reproduce in the classroom in an actual hands-on lab setting. In this case, I'm using their greenhouse effect simulation, and it's a really simple interface that helps students explore a really complex and complicated idea and process. So students are able to use the simulation to change different parameters and see immediate effects on different variables, such as the amount of greenhouse gas concentration and how that affects the temperature of the atmosphere in the simulation. They're also able to go back in time to like 1750 or Ice Age to see preloaded greenhouse gas concentrations and how that affected the temperature. We'll also see in a second when I show you the example that they see moving sunlight photons that are coming down into the atmosphere and then being reflected as infrared photons and then bouncing around depending on how much greenhouse gas concentration there are. So when I use this, I would plan to have students be guided through the use of the simulation with a Google Doc that I'll show you in just a second. This activity would engage students in modeling the greenhouse gas effect, again, something that's very difficult to do without some sort of simulation online, and help them to continue to gather further evidence about the connection between human activities and climate change. Because as you can see in the picture here, they're actually showing you some of those factors and some of those places, such as buildings and houses, that are going to lead to higher greenhouse concentrations, which thereby will lead to different climate change activities and processes happening. So this is a quick look at the actual simulation itself. As you can see, it does kind of move, and we can change the different parameters around to see how that might affect the atmosphere and the temperature of that atmosphere. Students can slow it down or increase the speed of the simulation, add different clouds, also look at things like how glass and the actual idea of a greenhouse affects temperatures, as well as how different photons are being absorbed by different atmospheric gases, really diving more deeply into the chemistry behind this. My plan for this unit, as I use this Phet simulation, is to guide students through the use of the simulation with this Google Doc that I would share via our Google Classroom. It goes through all the directions about what to click where. It includes different screenshots and then questions that I'd like them to answer as they work through. Because I'm sharing this as a Google Doc through our Google Classroom, I could see in real time how students are doing, what points they're at, but it's kind of a self-guided, self-paced activity, so students that need help are able to get the help in real time, who want to discuss different points with the classroom are able to do so, but also those students that are ready for some quicker material are able to also move forward and ahead on their own. And I even provided some enrichment opportunities here for those students that were looking for something else to do and an extra extension activity. All right, so the next technology that I will be integrating into this unit is the ever-beloved Kahoot, which is a game-based platform that allows students to check their understanding of content in a really fun and competitive atmosphere. And we know how important gamification is to students. We know that students engage more when there is a game element at play, so to say. So this program allows you to play these games that you can either create and edit yourself, or they have entire libraries that you can pull from. You can play these games live with a class or assign it as a self-paced challenge. The teacher is then able to see a detailed report and know what content was most difficult. So that definitely really helps to improve student learning when a teacher can identify the misconceptions at play and make instructional decisions further about what they'd like to do with the class after they have worked through this Kahoot. So it allows me to pull out those students that are struggling and require intervention further, as well as to know just generally what content was most difficult. So in this unit, I would plan to use Kahoot as a self-paced formative assessment opportunity so that students can test their knowledge after they've done the EdPuzzle and the Phet simulations to know just what do I actually know about climate change? How well am I doing with this content? It'll also, as I said before, let me know as the instructor what topics need more time spent in class to review and dive deeper into. So this is what the Kahoot looks like, and I created this one myself with my own questions, so we can kind of go through and create different multiple choice questions. We can add different time limits or amount of points, and then I would choose what the correct answer is. And then the students would go ahead and play through this. Like I said, I would be choosing the self-paced challenge mode. So students would be working through it at their own pace, but they would still be competing with each other for a final, what they call platform. So first, second, third, receiving different medals for the best scores that they were able to have. And those scores are based on both accuracy as well as speed. I did want to show really briefly what the reports look like on Kahoot and why they are such a powerful tool for students and teachers to be using. So right now, I don't have anyone that played this challenge, but as people play the challenge, as my students engage, I'll be able to see generally how we're doing, what questions are most difficult for students, which students need help because they did not complete the Kahoot accurately or they had a lot of trouble, what students just aren't engaging with it or didn't finish and I need to reach out to and have a conversation with. This allows me to see a summary as well as in-depth information about individual students and in-depth information about individual questions. So it really gives me a great deep dive into how did my students do with the content presented through this game platform of Kahoot. All right, this is my last technology that I am planning on integrating into this climate change unit, and it is Newsela, which is a online platform for reading, annotating different articles, both current event articles as well as informational articles. It also allows the students to take comprehension quizzes that are directly connected to different ELA or science anchor standards. Newsela is a great platform because it personalizes the reading levels to students as they engage with the platform and read different articles and take different comprehension quizzes. It will figure out what their reading level is and give them articles at their reading level. And they can all interact with the same content just at their own personal reading level. So it also lets you use text sets, which gives students a bunch of articles connected to the same content, but allows them to choose which articles they'd like to read. And students can annotate directly on that article to facilitate close reading using both highlighting and margin note interactivity. And so in this unit on climate change, I would use this platform at the end of the unit to have students read three chosen articles from a text set as a way to gather those primary source evidence to be able to show their mastery of the content in a final claims evidence reasoning paragraph paper that focuses on the prompt, how is human activity impacting climate change and what can we do about it? So getting back to those student outcomes about proposing solutions to climate change as a final wraparound of this unit. So here is Newsela, the platform that I'm planning on using. And you can see here it allows me to give specific instructions to my students, as well as to put together a whole bunch of articles for them to choose from. And you can make your own text set through this platform, or in this case, I actually found a text set that was already put together for me from the platform. And so I'm able to not spend as much time creating materials, but spending more time directly engaging with my students through the platform. So here's a view from the teacher side of how the student data comes in and how we're able to see exactly how students are engaging with Newsela. I'm able to see how much time they spent reading the article. In this case, this is one specific article within the text set, as well as what level they were assigned. And like I said before, that level starts to adjust as students read and complete more quizzes through this platform. But I can also choose to lock the level as at a particular grade if I wanted to. I can also see how they are doing in terms of their comprehension quiz after reading the article, as well as any annotations that they've made on the article, which we're going to look at right now. So this is a specific student's article that they were looking at. I'm able to see the specific annotations they made with highlights. I'm also able to see any margin notes that they made, and I can reply directly to those margin notes in case I wanted to give them some sort of feedback. I can also see how they did on the quiz questions over here. And these quiz questions, for the most part, are tied to the ELA content standard, so it's a great interdisciplinary platform to use in social studies and science to kind of weave in the reading across the curriculum and literacy through science. So those were the 4 different technology integration opportunities I would weave into this unit on climate change. I did want to speak briefly about how the unit can be adapted to both remote or hybrid learning. So all of the different platforms and tech tools that I chose to use in this unit work on a multitude of devices, so access for all students is very easy. Students can also engage with these technologies both in class and at home, or they can start working on it in class together and then continue their work at home. Many of these different platforms allow for them to save their work and then come back later. It also allows for feedback from the teacher for EdPuzzle, Newsela, and the Phet simulation, or directly from the system auto-correcting like Kahoot, so they get that feedback immediately, and so it helps a student to definitely check their understanding in real time, which is so important during remote and hybrid learning when the teacher may not be able to be face-to-face or directly working with that student or a class of students synchronously, and they may not need to do some activities asynchronously. That feedback piece could be really important to their learning outcomes. Also, these platforms that require a sign-in, such as Kahoot or Newsela or EdPuzzle, can be done with a single sign-on. So again, ease of access there. And also all the technology integration activities that I chose to use inspire ideas or questions for class discussions that can become even more engaging, that can then happen in person or via a video conferencing platform. So they work really well to kind of blend both an in-person environment as well as a remote or virtual environment. So that's my unit on climate change and how I would integrate different technology opportunities into the curriculum work there for students. Thank you.